Hello friends, in today's discussion we'll talk about Hindi cinema and Yash Chopra. As all of us are also aware that how Yash Chopra has played an important role in the Hindi film industry. The kind of cinema which he has made is not only relevant from the times in which it was made, but at the same time some of the films which he made were far ahead of their times, and we realized that because of such a situation many of them they were not able to do, they were not successful in that sense from the box office point of view. But the way he has treated the films which he has made as a director, and at the same time he was also involved as a producer in many of the films which were directed by other directors, including his son Aditya Chopra. So we find that how he began his journey along with his brother B.R. Chopra, and he in a way started his journey in 1950s, and when he opened his own banner Yash Raj Films, then he started to make the films on his own terms, in that sense that the kind of cinema which he wanted to make. And over the years there was some kind of a stamp or a brand which Yash Chopra was able to create in the context of the treatment which was given to the films which he made. And we also find that how some of the successful film stars, including Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan, how they were some kind of a consistent phenomena in some of the films of Yash Chopra, and how both these actors they not only have proved themselves in the film industry, but at the same time they were able to do justice to the kind of cinema which was made by Yash Chopra. We also have seen that many of the films which have been made by Yash Chopra beginning from 1950s till the 2012 when he made his last film Jab Tak Hai Jaan. And all these films, they not only are trying to convey some kind of a contemporary reality, but at the same time they were also able to entertain the audience in their own way. So today we will talk about the films of Yash Chopra. We'll try to position them in the times in which they were being made. We will also talk about the sense of music which is there in the films, as music has been integral to the Hindi cinema as well as the other regional cinemas as well, and that how the success of the music in a film is also related to the success of the film itself. So in a way the way songs they are also being picturized, the way Yash Chopra picturized those songs, and largely how Switzerland as one place which became closely associated with the kind of songs which were being picturized by Yash Chopra. So we will try to in a way understand the cinema of Yash Chopra in the context of the changing times, and how some of the films which were made by him, they were far ahead of their times. And in that context, some of the references which one can use is Rachel Dyer book which is on Yash Chopra, then Gulzar's et al. Encyclopedia of Hindi Cinema. And apart from that, the films, they are the most important sources in terms of understanding of Yash Chopra's cinema, as well as some of the articles which are available on Wikipedia, and how some of the articles which have been published in some of the newspapers, they can also provide some kind of a reference when one is talking about the cinema of Yash Chopra. So when we try to see Yash Chopra, that how he has been successful over the years, it does not mean that some of the films they did not do at the box office. Some of them they flopped as well. But the box office success is not the only indicator. Filmmaker is able to connect with the audience, how a filmmaker in a way is trying to treat the kind of cinema which is there, is also very, very relevant. And when we see that how Yash Chopra basically talks about the emotions of love and the human relationships in his films, and we also see that how Dada Sahab Phalke Award was given to him in 2001, and in 2006 we find the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, they also presented him with a lifetime membership, making him the first Indian to receive the honor. And Rachel Dyer, as I told you, has written book on him. So how Yash Chopra, who began his journey in 1950s, who was born in 1932 and continued till 2012, till his last film, and he was also successful in the national affair, in the national awards, in that sense that he won a number of national film awards and as well as the Filmfare awards. So his contribution in the sense as a director, as a film producer, and how he was also some sort of a script writer, where he was contributing in the sense to the script as well as music as well. So when we talk about the first film which was made by him as a director, which was Dhool Ka Phool in 1959, and this basically revolves around a Muslim who was in a way how a Muslim brings up an illegitimate Hindu child. And one of the most popular songs of that period also belonged to this film, "Tu Hindu banega na Musalman banega, इंसान की औलाद है इंसान बनेगा." So this was in a way talking about the idea of secularism, and the film starred Leela Chitnis, Rajendra Kumar and Mala Sinha, and we find that the kind of treatment which was being given to the film in those times, especially by Yash Chopra, black and white film, and how this theme basically was talking about the idea of secularism in the context of the violence which was being seen during the times of partition, and partition, how it was being witnessed by the people, and Yash Chopra himself also in a way shifted to Bombay because of the kind of displacement which happened during the times of partition of India and thereafter. So we find that how the filmmakers of those times, many of them, those who got displaced and came to Bombay and joined the film industry, they in a way reflected their own ideas with regard to the violence or the displacement which was being seen by them during the times of partition, and how Chopra reversed the theme in Dharmputra, which was made in 1961 with Shashi Kapoor. And in this film we see that how a Hindu family brings up an illegitimate Muslim child, and this film deals with a number of issues beginning from the religious intolerance, fanaticism, communalism during the times of partition, and the film did not do well at the box office. And we find that not many directors, they ventured into such kind of themes after that, including Yash Chopra himself. So we find that how not many films they were being made on the issue of partition of India, and the first serious attempt with regard to the partition of India was seen in M.S. Satyu's Garm Hawa in 1973. So how this kind of a violence or displacement was in a way fresh in the minds of the people, and possibly people were not very happy with regard to such kind of portrayals. But when we try to see these films in today's times, we are able to connect with these kinds of themes, and we are able to understand that in 1950s, which was also basically period of nation building, and how the filmmakers, they were also playing their part in terms of the idea of nation building, and the ideas of secularism and religious tolerance for each other. In that sense, they were very, very relevant in those times as well, apart from the issues of economic development and some kind of a development with regard to removal of inequalities which were existing in the society. And apart from this issue of legitimacy and illegitimacy which was being talked about both in Dharmputra as well as Dhool Ka Phool, which deal with these kinds of issues, and they focus that how humanity is a far more important aspect rather than the issues of legitimacy and illegitimacy. And that is how that song also, "Tu Hindu banega na Musalman banega, insan ki aulad hai insan banega," is talking about the issue of humanity in that context. So we find that the ideas which were there in the films of Yash Chopra, they were quite relevant, not only from the point of view of nation building, but at the same time the ideas of humanity, they were also there in the films which were made by him. Then we also find that how the idea of multi-starrers, it also became important in one of his films, called Waqt, which was made in 1965, and he reintroduced the lost and reunite formula in this film, which was acknowledged as a found film of the lost and found genre. And if we see earlier films as well, one of the films which talked about the lost and reunite formula was Kismat in 1943, in which Ashok Kumar starred. And we find that this film was a huge success in 1943 when it was released. And so this idea of making films which were multi-starrers was also in a way initiated by Yash Chopra, and this film had a number of popular actors of those times, including Rajkumar and Shashi Kapoor and Sunil Dutt, apart from Balraj Sahni, Rahman, etc., and the heroines as well, including Sharmila Tagore. So we find that when such kind of films they came, so they were not only able to in a way entertain the audience, but at the same time they were also talking about an important concept with regard to that how time is one of the most important factors in life, and when time is in a way supporting you, then you are able to succeed. But when the time is not favorable in that sense, then one is not able to succeed as well. So this idea of ego, when a person believes that one will be able to do this kind of a thing, as Balraj Sahni is also being shown in the film, and later he also realizes that how time is an important aspect, and unless the time is in your favor, then many a times man or women, or for that matter, they are not able to achieve their objectives. And we also find that this film also had some of the successful or popular songs as well. Waqt Se, Din Aur Raat, and Aage Bhi Jaane Na Tu, all these kinds of songs, all these songs, both of them, they were there in this film as well. And how the popularity of music and songs, they also in a way impact the films as well. This could be seen in this particular film as well. And as I told you, that the relevance of this particular film in those times in 1960s, when also India was trying to in a way talk about the idea of nation building and was grappling with a number of problems. Then we also see that how Yash Chopra was also instrumental in that sense in taking risks and initiating a new kind of a cinema, where we find that he made a film called Ittifaq in 1969, which was a songless film. So earlier also we had a film called Qanun in 1960, which did not have a song. And as we have seen that in Hindi and other regional cinemas, how centrality of the songs is there, how songs, they play an important role, how they are relevant, and how they also carry the story forward as well. So this kind of a film where Yash Chopra took some kind of a initiative where he made a film without a song. So he was not only taking a risk where songs have definitely played an important role in the success of the films, but at the same time we also find that he had this kind of a strength or a drive, that he was ready to experiment with the new styles. And this film, we find that how Rajesh Khanna and Nanda, both of them, they played the role of the male as well as the female protagonists. And in this film we also see that how the heroine of the film is being shown in a way as some sort of a anti-heroine that way. So this kind of a portrayal in those times basically is trying to communicate that how in those times these kinds of relevant aspects, they were also being seen by the filmmakers, and they were ready to experiment in that sense. Then we also see that how a film called Daag, A Poem of Love, 1973, which was made in 1973, was made by Yash Chopra, where Sharmila Tagore, Rajesh Khanna and Rakhi, both of them, all three of them, they acted. And it raises the question of law, that how Rajesh Khanna, who is being implicated and sent to jail in a crime for defense, and how he changes his identity, marries another woman, Rakhi, and commits bigamy. So it raises questions regarding the issues of marriage, that whether how this kind of a marriage with some other woman while one is already married, and how Rajesh Khanna is in a way committing the crime of bigamy. And it is not only a question which is connected to the question of crime, but it is also a question which is committed to the question of ethics as well in the society, and it could be seen both ways. And how we also see that in changing times, that how such kind of notions which are there in the society, they are also changing. One of the most important films which not only played an important role in the life of Amitabh Bachchan, but I think in the entire generation who was witness to such kind of a cinema, was Diwar, which was made in 1975. And how this film talks about the life of impoverished brothers played by Amitabh Bachchan and Shashi Kapoor. And the film also talks about the misplaced idealism of their father, in that sense that how an idealistic father who is not able to in a way support the family because of the fact that the forces which are against the idealism, they are not ready in a way to provide some kind of a space to the people, those who believe in such kind of ideals. And we also see that how Diwar basically in the question denotes the wall that has left between the two brothers, who in a way are separated by destiny and as well as the situation, and in a period of socio-political chaos. So this kind of a chaos which was there in their lives, and how they are also in a way separated in the context of their own belief systems, that one is engaged or engrossed in the life of the underworld, and on the other hand the other one, Shashi Kapoor, in a way wanted to stick to his own ideals and is part of the police system. And so in a way one is on the other side of the law, one who is committing the crimes and who is involved in the crime, and on the other hand one is Shashi Kapoor is on the side of the law, that he has to in a way stop all sorts of crimes which are happening there. So we also see that this was also a period in 1970s when there was a lot of flux in the society, and the issues of unemployment, poverty, all of them, they were being discussed at different levels. And when this film shows that there's a tattoo on the arm of Amitabh Bachchan that my father is a thief. So this kind of a situation where the lawless elements, they are not even ready to leave a small child, where that this kind of a tattoo has been imprinted on the hand of a child. So it in a way shows the kind of insensitivity which has crept in the society, and how the lawless elements, they are ruling the roost that way, that they have become more influential. And so in this sense we also have to understand film Diwar, and how Amitabh Bachchan's character is a shoe polish boy who finally transforms into a dockyard worker, and finally he becomes a smuggler who is not educated, who is lawless in that sense. And when you try to juxtapose the positions of Amitabh and Shashi Kapoor, where he's the other brother is shown as a good student who is not only becomes a police inspector, but he is lawful in nature, and he is ready to fight with his own brother for the justice and law. So he is morally upright in that sense. So all these kinds of comparisons, they are being made in the film itself. And the iconic dialogue in the film, that Mere Paas Maa Hai, which is there in this film, and which has been in a way used and reused in later films as well, and how the audience also connects with the dialogues. And when Amitabh Bachchan says that the line वहीं से start होती है जहाँ से Amitabh Bachchan, when he is standing there, so this kind of a dialogue also comes, and these dialogues they became the iconic dialogues in the later times, and they have been shown in different ways in the later times as well. And that scene where he is fighting with the lawless elements in a go down, that has also been shown variously in the later films as well. So the way Yash Chopra was able to direct such kind of scenes, the way he was able to portray these kinds of emotions as well as ideas on the screen, it is reflective of the kind of treatment which he gave to these films. And we, as I told you earlier as well, that 1970s was a period of flux where we find that how JP movement, which talks about Sampurna Kranti or total revolution, also began in the 1970s, and it witnessed the problems of unemployment during that time and poverty as well, and how Diwar in 1970s becomes some sort of a cult film. And by cult film we mean that how in the later times as well the success of Diwar could be in a way seen, and how such kind of a cinema, especially Diwar, Zanjeer and some other successful films of Amitabh Bachchan in 1970s and 80s, and they have been seen time and again by the audience in different platforms. And recently some kind of a retrospective has been recently initiated by one of the foundations, where it is showing the cinema of Amitabh Bachchan of 70s and 80s on the big screen. So the relevance of those films in the times of today is to be realized, and we also have to see that the phenomena of the angry young man, which was created during this period, was also reflective of the politics of those times, where we find not only the JP movement, but we also find the imposition of the emergency as well. And we also have the critics of emergency, those who have talked about the kind of excesses which were being committed during that time. So that anti-establishment mood which was there of the 1970s was also reflected in the films of that period, and how films of that period are not only entertaining the audience, but at the same time they are also conveying the kind of message which is there in the society, that how society was being reflected in the cinema of those times. And we find that this film was written by the writing duo of Salim Javed, who are in a way also appreciated in so many later films as well. And how their scripts, they became popular, and they also provided some kind of a status to the script writers as well, that earlier than them the kind of prestige or reputation or the status of the film script writer did not exist. But with the arrival of this duo, how they raised the status of the writers, that could also be seen from the point of view of the films which were made during this time. We also have seen that apart from the image of Amitabh Bachchan, where he was in a way shown as a person who was an angry young man, the way he was being used by or in various kinds of roles by Yash Chopra in a film called Kabhi Kabhi in 1976, where we find that how Amitabh Bachchan and Rakhi, they wanted to marry but they were not able to marry, and how Wahida Rahman, who marries Amitabh Bachchan, has an illegitimate daughter, Neetu Singh, played by Neetu Singh, and when Neetu Singh learns about her adoption and identity of her real mother, she goes to meet her. So in the film we see how Rishi Kapoor is shown as son of Shashi Kapoor and Rakhi. So this kind of a complex web of relationships could be seen in this particular film, and how the film starred Amitabh Bachchan as some sort of a poet who is very calm and soft in nature, which was in complete contrast to the earlier films in which he had played the role of angry young man. But how Amitabh Bachchan was able to do justice to this kind of a role as well, and how the film also raised the question of legitimacy and legitimacy again, when we find that how the question of past is being talked about in the context of Rakhi as well as Wahida Rahman. So to in a way talk about that even women, they could have some kind of a past, and how when in a marriage relationship or any kind of a relationship, one has to live in the present, because present is more important. So this is what the film is trying to convey, that how the happiness is basically being reflected in the present times, and how one should be able to in a way ready to forgive and forget in such kind of intimate relationships which are there in life. So we basically find that such kind of portrayal of complex emotions and ideas with some kind of a subtlety is seen in the films of Yash Chopra, and how Yash Chopra was in a way able to do justice in terms of portraying these kinds of emotions. So he was not in a way ready to typecast only Amitabh Bachchan in a certain kind of a category of portrayals, but he was ready to experiment during the times of 1970s when Amitabh Bachchan was very popular in the image of the angry young man. But even then he was ready to cast him in a different kind of a mold, and how he was also able to do justice in that sense when such kind of a portrayal took place. So we in a way realize that how Yash Chopra was conscious of the changing times, and many a times he was far ahead in terms of what he was trying to do in terms of the treatment which he was giving to the films, and he was ready to experiment in that sense. So in the next lecture we will also talk about the other films which have been made by Yash Chopra, and the kind of ideas which are there in the films, and how we can in a way relate to these kinds of idea in the changing times, as well as the contemporary reality it is also being reflected. So thank you very much.